Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Ann Merkel, and welcome to our energy therapy support call. I would very much like to welcome all of you new people and those of you who have been following me for 15 years or longer that have been to these regular calls. And today we're going to start out by setting the stage. What I hope to do today is to focus on clearing the trauma of uncontrollable events that have happened to many of us. And the most recent thing that has been in the news and that has been definitely talked about and focused on worldwide is the devastating fire in Lahaina on the island of Maui in Hawaii. And there are lots of things that we can say about that, but I want to get into the spirit of that energy and what we can do with that energy as we clear our own traumas from fires, floods. I know a lot of people today in Florida are watching this hurricane off the coast, and they're very afraid of that. And so natural disasters, man-made disasters, wars, all different kinds of things can be so traumatic, whether they hit us or we just see it on the news. And so while we're watching or thinking about this, or even at the beginning, as we're going to be bringing up some of the issues that we are going to be clearing, I want to focus on bringing those up and already clearing those. And so what I want you to do is to be tapping on your own as you're watching with the heart-centered tapping points. And what this is you use your index finger on the thymus, which is your upper chest, and then your middle finger is like right about where a woman's cleavage starts, and then your other fingers can be right in the heart chakra, right on the sternum, right between the breasts. And if it's easier to tap with your thumb on the thymus point, feel free to do that. And so, yeah, okay. And while you tap there, that brings up old stuff. It brings up past traumas. It brings up stuff that you don't necessarily even know what it brings up, but it brings up the subconscious. It opens up your subconscious so that you are ready to clear whatever needs to be cleared. Okay, so I am going to switch over and share my screen and introduce you to a video done by Patrick Durkin's group, Lavanya. And we're just going to jump around a few little pieces of this. It was an August 25th video done right after the Maui fires in Lahaina. And I think that it will just open up some wonderful new ways to look at trauma, to look at the emotions that we're going to be clearing today, and to be putting everything into perspective. So I thank Lavanya for letting us use this video. Okay. And we're going to start right in here where Patrick, who's on the screen right now, is introducing, he's just introduced Kedar St. Clair from Lahaina.
Thank you so much for inviting me here this morning. It's so wonderful to see your beautiful
Kedar St. Clair
from all over the place, and to connect with healers and people in the healing arts. Hawaii is the word Hawaii means, the word Ha is the breath of life. Hawaii, the breath of life on the waters. We are situated as the furthest landmass from any place on planet Earth. And in Hawaii, we have 7 islands, of which the island of Maui is considered the heart chakra. We also have the belly button, the pico, we call it the belly button here. And Hawaii, as the heart chakra, is a place where people come and they feel an overwhelming sense of the spirit, a spirit of love and aloha and cooperation. This has happened since, this has been going on since time immemorial. You know, it is said in ancients of days that these were the mountaintops of Lemuria. And in other places it said that the mountaintops were outposts of Atlantis. So very, very significant to be in the center of the ring of fire. And what has been really overwhelming for us who live here on Maui is just how the entire community united on every level, all people, and we all came together, and our hearts were so open to help our brothers and sisters who have experienced extreme loss, and extreme suffering and pain right now as we speak. And like many of you and your communities, we have really literally been going into a place of healing circles, of breathing circles, and focusing on the love, because that's what we can do. And that's what comes naturally to us. So these islands, traditionally, Maui is the healing island of the heart. She's very, very powerful in that if you have any emotional type of things that you haven't dealt with, she'll bring it up and for you to deal with it. And to see the community come together in this place where we have this mysterious spirit called the spirit of aloha. Aloha is aloha is the breath of life. I recognize the divine within each and every single one of you. And we practice aloha. We practice love, unconditional love. And we know that the power of love is so strong that we will be able to overcome. We are overcoming this incredible, challenging moment. So I'm kind of rambling on a little bit here. Can you direct me? Did I answer your question?
Well, I think you got the ball rolling. You know, I wanted to share a quick personal experience. This is my 4th or 5th trip to Maui, and last year when I came, I had the opportunity to relax, and I really didn't have any pressure that I needed to tend to in my life, and I was still acting pressured. And so I was still really tight, and I was not enjoying myself or really falling into the vibration of Maui. And the backdrop of having the peace and love that Maui is compared to the way I was being helped me see into how my nervous system was wired and get all the way back to being in utero. And so Maui just held me. Like, it just held me with all of its dynamism and the different opportunities, and somehow that evoked a response in me that makes sense. And it seems like every time I come to Maui, I have that type of breakthrough experience. So I know that the spirit of it is real, and I'm looking to get a little bit more of evolutionary context on this. Maybe Hope, you want to weigh in, like, back in 2012, I worked with Hope for a year, and she kept telling me that what people wanted to understand was evolution. And I was like, my God, will you please stop saying that word? Nobody is interested in talking about evolution. And a couple years later, very sheepishly, I was like, Hope, I'm really interested in evolution. Could you teach me more about that, please? so Hope, you want to jump in here for a minute?
So one of the things I would like to focus on in our call today is what Patrick was just talking about, is evolution. And the evolution is all about how we can switch our perspective around issues and experiences that are so upsetting and traumatizing to us. And so Hope Fitzgerald, who we'll talk in a few minutes, is somebody who leads these sacred quests different places and to feel the energy of different places on the planet. And so what Patrick has just said is Maui is a center where one feels energy. And I'd like each of you listening to this call to focus on where you find yourself on the planet right now, and continue tapping here in your heart center, and focus on how you came to be in this location and how you feel where you are. Are you comfortable where you are? Is this really home for you? Does your location nurture you? Is this the same location where you have felt traumas in the past? Or is this a place that is more of a safe haven for you? Is this a place that triggers you to do your inner work? Like Patrick was saying, Maui brings up for people. It's like, if you haven't done your work, then it's time to do it. If you've got a, quote, cosmic tower, which is a device that I've got in my life right now, living with a big 220 tower, which is 7 feet tall, it is something that catalyzes me to react differently and to be more myself, to be more ready to change, and to be more at peace with change. But I came here after having trauma in another location. So I want you each to identify if this is a place where you have come and you have created an oasis for yourself, where you feel comfortable, and how the location where you are right now nurtures you. Okay. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to share about that right now before we go on? About your location and the nurturing energy you might feel where you are now? Anybody? No? Okay. All right. So let's go on. And I think that Kedar St. Clair will continue talking about some of the significance of the island of Hawaii, and specifically Lahaina. But I want you to be thinking about, if indeed you've had a trauma, and where that occurred, how that occurred, what are some of the more spiritual aspects of that location, and whatever you experienced, because that's kind of what people are saying about some of the Maui and the Lahaina fire experience. And we're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I just wanted a little bit more to get some really nicely said emotional foundation for where we're going to go in just a minute. So we're going back to the video now.
all of us that spirit of aloha, that love, that unconditional love. And we're seeing it in action, love in action. Despite all...
Kedar, let me put an image up on my screen here. I got this from a video that Robert Malone did, and let me see if I can drag this out of the way here. I'll put it over the Malone report. So this is a Maui. It's a map of Maui and where the fires are. And
Actually, I see it on the map here. See where we are in Haiku and Kula,
right over here,
the middle. Yeah, we're in Haiku. So over here in this area is the heart area. I would say so. Essentially, looking at this map here, we got hit straight in the third eye, right there. And so that is truly the place, Lahaina, the place of Lahaina, is historically the seat of the Kingdom of Hawaii. It was a wetland when it first came into existence. And so there was no question of it not having enough water. So to open up our consciousness, I would say that our crown chakra is fully open and ready to receive, to allow us to become the recipients of that which is pouring in at this time and spreading around the world. It's said in ancient of times that Hawaii would rise to bring world peace. And all of us who are called to this, to step into that place as the bearers of the light and to bring this energy in, everybody, it's all hands on deck right in this moment. And so yeah, it's an amazing place. I also ask people when they come here, try to get underneath a coconut tree and just lie there and relax and take it in. Everybody's so busy, they wanting to see everything and do everything. And allow the energy of this place to settle in. So I think that we're on the right track here in regards to recognizing the significance of this place that is known as the heart of the world. Many other indigenous cultures also in the Amazonians, in India, places like that, they also consider their place the heart of the world. But we know that directly opposite us, you go straight to the planet are the pyramids of Giza. And so it's a very, we're right smack bang in the middle. And I can see why I'm sitting here with all of you lovely energy workers to talk about how we can increase this, how we can bring that into the world even more.
Okay, so basically what he said was Hawaii has been prophesized or predicted to rise again to bring world peace. And I think just the focus on what happened in Hawaii and bringing this energy is so important. And one other little tiny portion of this video that I'd like to share is where Hope Fitzgerald gets in and mentions the way to transmute your energy. So just one more little share, and then we're going to get into some serious clearing of our own stuff. Okay, so bear with me about 4 more minutes.
Evolutionarily speaking, from my perspective, what Kedar was expressing in terms of the way the community is responding, and this is not to say this has never happened anywhere else, but when you take the significance of this strike at the heart and at the pineal, and I mean, speaking of arrows, it's almost as if, right, arrows were sent to have a community in that situation still rise to respond in love, that is evolution. There is so much, I mean, I'm not there. I wish I was. I really do. If I wasn't leaving next week to go the opposite direction, I would be there. But there's a lot of emotion from running A to Z. So the choices are many, because there are some suspect things about this whole thing. And so, when that happens, there's, of course, we look for blame, and we look for all the, just trying to take in all the information to try to figure out what the heck happened. That leads to heavier emotions, darker emotions. And those are the ones that, through instances such as this, we are being asked on an evolutionary level to step over, to rise beyond. And it seems to me, from what Kedar has said and what Mindy, my God, what Mindy has been doing, and I hope you will, maybe I'll pass the baton to her now, but the outpouring of the community for one another has been just off the charts. And the demonstration of what that island represents, being the heart, I don't know who it was I was talking to in the last 2 weeks, but I got the impression that, there are many places I've been in the world, you've all been in the world, and some places you feel better in than others. You just, and this is why I take people on trips to these places, because there are earth energies and the way they come together, and the confluence of the particular kinds of stones, the rocks there, the land itself, the water elements, all of these things kind of combined to create a very positive experience, and our hearts open. Southwestern France is like that. You just can't help it. Your heart opens. And but there aren't that many places where you can sustain it. The land has to really support the human in being able to sustain that love energy. The human will do what the human can do to make that happen, but it's when they come together, as they seem to have done for eons in Hawaii. And I've been on Easter Island, which is considered to be another tip of Lemuria, and that love feeling is there too. But in any event, if Maui was the center of it all, it seemed to me, from what I've been hearing, is that the lifestyle of aloha, as Kiko was saying, was able to be sustained there. That's kind of miraculous. That's really special. And so the fact that everybody is still vibrating on that level with this horrendous activity is really beautiful. And I don't want to sugarcoat anything, but I am moved by it. Let me put it that way. I'm so moved by it, and it's a fabulous lesson. And if indeed Hawaii will rise to be the example for the world, maybe that's what's happening here, because only very special people who have been steeped in that energy could respond like this so consistently. So maybe this is the example for the rest of the world. I don't know. There's so much I don't know, but that's something that has me intrigued, that idea. And I'd love to just hear from Mindy, because Mindy.
Okay, so that's all we're going to do of that. So thank you for bearing with me, but I wanted you to see some of that other recording just because some of us had already seen it, and it was a good introduction. So basically the message that came across to me, my takeaway from that whole event last week, was that there is so much negative, heavy emotion that comes up around, if you're in a war zone, or there is a war and you're watching it on the news, or there's a horrible, devastating storm, or fire, or flood, or something horrible and traumatic happens in your life, there are so many ways that we can feel, right? And the example here of Hawaii and what they're doing now over there is that they have taken this energy as a community and they're turning all the negativity and the conspiracy theories and how did it happen and why did it happen and why were the roads blocked and da 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 da, and saying, hey, we don't need to focus on that. We need to focus on our love for each other, our community, and serving each other. And that transmutation of all the anger and the frustration and the hopelessness to how can we help? How can we send love? How can we be there for each other, with each other? That is what is going to shift the planetary energy. That is going to what is going to be metamorphizing our whole planet and each one of us as we evolve and as we can get beyond our own traumas and our own hurts. Okay, so I've been working as an energy medicine therapist, doctor for about 35 years. And many, many times a person with deep trauma and anxiety or depression will come to me and they'll say, I don't know why I'm feeling this way because nothing horrible's really happened to me. And so a lot of times I'll ask, people that are younger than me, I say, well, did either of your parents experience like a war zone or a horrible traumatic experience before you were conceived or when you were a very young child? Did anything horrible that you don't even remember happen? And so many times they'll go, oh, yes, my parent was in World War I or II, or my parent was in Korea or Vietnam, or even now Afghanistan or the Middle East. They'll also say, I had one client that said, oh my gosh, my mother, when she was carrying me, there was this horrible typhoon and she had to run through the flood and get away from the storm and, get help from her community. And when we're in the womb or in our DNA before we're conceived, we can take on the emotional imprint that is from our parents and carry that. And then when we are born, from birth to about age 12 for some people, we are like sponges. We can't distinguish between somebody else's emotion and our own emotion. So we're just sucking in and feeling what the environment is feeling. So for children, or if we in fact watch scary movies as children, or watch the news and saw horrible things happening on the news, we have taken that in as little children, and we may not know why we have this old reoccurring nightmare or this feeling of gloom or something that triggers us into a depression. But it can just be because we were in that environment when we were very young and we're still carrying it. So I'd like you to unmute yourselves, if you would, please, because this is a wonderful opportunity to really get some personal coaching. So, I'm happy to do that. And when the people in Hawaii were talking about the community feeling, well, on all my calls for the last 15 years when I've been doing this, I know that always the right people appear in person on these calls. And it's because this is the energy that we want to share with the hundreds of people that will watch the video. And the coaching that happens, and sometimes I'll have a single client that wants to be coached, kind of on the coaching seat on one of these calls. And the rest of us hold the community. We hold the mastermind energy of healing for that one person. So whoever is focusing on his or her trauma on the call will get the healing thoughts and energy of the whole group. So that is what the power of even a Zoom call is all about. And so that I'm really, you know, and people that follow me regularly realize how important it is to come in person, because it is just really potent to be here in person and to feel it and to share it and to be holding the form. But everybody in the community is really holding the form too. We're just, you know, in a quantum energy sense, we're doing it at different times. They're not just all here right now. So Julia or Beatrice, would either one of you like to share a trauma that you would like to clear today, or something that is person, you don't have to go into real personal details unless you want to, but is there anything that you brought today to specifically clear on this call?
I actually didn't, but I know that I'm one of those people that feels that I know I've had little traumas in my life, but I don't know really what they were. I just know that there are issues because I'm now 76 years old, and I have some minor health issues. One of them is my throat and speaking up. And so I know there are issues to be cleared, and I'm not quite sure how to go about doing it.
Okay. All right. All right. So that is what, thank you for sharing that, Julia. Beatrice, how about you? What are you expecting and wanting from today's call, and what are you bringing to the call?
Honestly, I had no idea what to expect.
Okay.
Reading the, just because of everything that's going on around us, it cannot not affect us one way. So it's just like, what do you do? How can you help? How do you process? How do you help yourself so that you can be there for others? It's almost like we're in the same soup. We're all swimming in it. So how do we support each other? How are we with each other?
Okay.
I live in Houston and we haven't had any fires, but we've experienced pretty bad, like with the experience with Harvey and, the hurricanes. And then I was born in Mexico City, so I experienced earthquakes. And so I know what it is like. And I know that it's always like a matter of perspective in a way that really helps us move forward or not.
Mm-hmm.
And also we can make up whatever we want, because the longer I live, the more I realize that I know less and less. I've tried to understand, I like to know, but it's just like right now you ask me, my answer is going to be, I don't know. I can come to my truth, and maybe tomorrow is going to be different than what I just said today. So
good. Thank you, Beatrice. Interesting. I used to live in Mexico City too. I love that city, but it's so crowded. It's so big, but it's got some real spirit to it. But Houston, yeah, you've experienced a lot of trauma and the hurricane and the floods, and I've had some dear friends who've lived in Houston during those times. So yeah. And I experienced earthquakes when I lived down in Mexico. Yeah, but not the big ones.
now you were asking how we feel about where we are.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been living here for a long time, maybe more than half of my life I've lived here. But there's still this feeling of being uprooted.
Really?
I was going to go back at some point in time. My husband passed away and my kids left home and all that. And then I was like, where am I going to be? And so I felt I was going to go back to Mexico City, and that was my intention. And my sister just passed away when I was going to figure out if it was the right move.
Mm-hmm.
Things happened that it wasn't. So I came back, but there's also, I realized as you were asking the question, I realized that there's a lot of stuff. Even though I'm okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay. And I want to believe, what they say, that you have to bloom where you're planted. I want to believe that.
Beautiful phrase. Yes. Yes. Right. Yeah. Julia, where are you located?
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. And have you been there forever or?
Forever.
Okay.
Yep. And I feel very lucky to be in a place that doesn't seem to have too many disasters.
Okay. Laura, we have a small group here that we are holding the vibrations, and would you like to unmute yourself and say where you are and what traumas you would like to clear on today's call?
Hi.
Hi there.
I'm northeast of Atlanta.
Okay.
There are all kinds of traumatic events, largely personal, but that I've been through in the last 12 years. But one of the other things that happened is a couple years ago, a tropical storm came through here and a tree destroyed a large portion of our house, and we had to get through that. So that's that's a bigger picture type thing. But a lot of what I'm dealing with is just like sequential things that have happened in our personal life.
Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing that. So because we are a small group, we've already, at the end of this, Laura, I'd like you to go back and look at the recording, because I kind of set the tone using another recording done by Patrick Durkin and the Lavanya group last week. And I don't know if you saw that, but that is a really good intro into the trauma of Maui, but how it relates to all of us and how we can all shift our perspective on the craziness and then focus on community and transmute the anger, the frustration, the trying to solve the problems and left brain things, but turn it into love to actually shift the situation. So I invite you to look at the film.
I caught a portion of that.
Okay.
And are you going to send a link for this replay?
Yes, I will.
Okay, great.
Make sure that you're on my list, because that's who will get the link.
Right. So
you
I got the link. I got the link for this from you. So.
Okay. Okay. So then you must be on my list. Okay. All right. Good. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to be focusing now on the specific meridian points that you can use for yourself to clear things. Now, one of the things that we want to focus on is where we're holding energy in our body. And we'll start, Julia, you mentioned that you don't feel like you're really able to speak your truth, or you feel like you might have a blockage in your throat. Mm-hmm. And so there's a kinesiological hold that you can use anywhere in your body where you feel stuck energy, or you feel pain, or you just feel like, I can't speak my truth. In this case, it would be the vortex or the chakra at your throat is blocked for some reason. And so you put one hand here and the other hand across your forehead, touching 2 points that are here, which are your emotional release points. These are neural cranial points that are where the body actually can, without you even knowing what you're releasing, if you've got something you'd like to say or you can't say, or it's hard for you to say, if you just, you know, touch your throat and then create this circuit, your body will go in, and any emotional component to this blockage, it will automatically shift without you having to know what you're clearing or saying anything or tapping on any particular points. You could also, if you get emotional at some point, like something's happening bad, or when I'm working with a client, sometimes I'll bring up some really deep emotional stuff. And, you know, people can feel nauseous, they can feel their hearts flutter, different things. And I'll just say, move your hand to where you're feeling that energy. And it may move. And I said, just move with the energy as you feel it shifting until it goes. And the body can do that on its own, you know, just by using these special points here that are emotional release points. And so that's a kinesiological tool you can use. You can use it for pain. You can use it for any kind of stuckness. Let's say you're in a situation where you just feel a lot of heart energy. You're very sad. You feel, you know, just a lot of heart energy. You can create that circuit there, and it keeps you from taking on the energy of another. Doesn't mean you can't be sympathetic to that other person, but it keeps you from carrying it around as your own burden. Okay. All right. So let's go back to some of the things that we've seen and heard or experienced. All of us went through this COVID pandemic of several years ago. Some of us know people that have died because of this COVID. We know people that were checked themselves into a hospital or something and never came out. We know people that have had the shot and are vaccine injured and are suffering or have maybe died from that. So any of those kinds of things can bring up trauma. Just the trauma of wearing masks and never being able to really see who we're dealing with, that's very traumatic for even all of us adults, let alone the children. Our little granddaughter came to visit during the height of, in 2021, and she wouldn't take her mask off even outdoors, and she was scared to death of us. So, you know, and yes, the frightening division, Laura says, if you want to open the chat, you can see what she said in the chat area. The frightening division and resulting violence in this country has been a big global trauma. Yes, yes. And so, you know, if you watch the nightly news, if you watch news at all, that is traumatic. And so, Laura, right before you got on the call, I introduced a tapping point that I share with people all the time. This is called the heart center. And it has the thymus gland, the thymus point, which some people say this is the high heart chakra, but they say this is where your soul is actually connected to the physical body. It also has your sternum, which goes through all your chakras. Your energy vortices. It goes through your heart chakra. So as you're tapping here, this is a very potent place. And I've known some energy medicine practitioners that only tap just on the thymus. but it is a wonderful place to release, but to also bring stuff to the surface that you'd really like to clear. Okay, even if you don't know what it is. Okay, so let's just clear anything that's debris that's left over from COVID, because we all went through it. It was traumatic. I heard another energy worker recently say that for the first 6 months, she was just in the fetal position crying because she felt so hopeless. She didn't know what to do. And personally, I was just flabbergasted at first and felt like, what do we do now? What's going on here? What's really happening? But something told me to go in and do research and go beyond the narrative. And I'm so thankful that I don't have television. I watch videos all the time. I stream all the time. I get my news online all the time, but I don't watch television. So I don't get any of the stuff. And, you know, I find that's a blessing. Other people think that's totally strange, but, you know, for me, I wasn't bombarded. But for so many people, the agenda, you know, our family members, how many of you have family members that had different opinions about what was going on and how to handle the rules, the regulations, the masks, the shots, you know, whatever, but they just were doing it differently. And I think that goes back to Laura's, you know, the division, us versus them. And that animosity is what the original video was speaking with. When you've got those heavy, dark emotions, we're feeding that darkness if we get sucked into it. So that's where the beauty of what I wanted to share on, you know, the other recordings were that those people in Hawaii are coming together and saying, okay, we know how to transmute this negativity. Instead of feeding it, we're going to send it love. We're going to do everything we can to help each other and to be one big family as we do it. And I think that that's where our planet is going as we evolve. Okay. So I am going to lead a meridian-based energy system that I use. I was trained as an energy therapist years ago using neuro-emotional technique. It was trained only to doctors to use on body issues, you know, body symptoms. If there's an emotional component, you know, how do you read the body? How do you ask the body? How do you use the meridians and the meridians in the wrists to tell you what actually your body's holding on to and where it's holding on to and how to get rid of it. And then I combined that with the process that we can all use for ourselves, which is emotional freedom technique, which is where you can tap on specific points on your own. But I do it real differently. And I look at the emotions held in each meridian point, and I clear that totally, and then I go to the next point. So I want to just share this, and we're going to create a matrix here where I will suggest different things that you can be clearing as you're tapping on a point. But you can use this recording again and substitute anything that comes up. But this will be kind of like the matrix. So Julia, if you want to mute yourself, then you can repeat back or you can say things out loud and the rest of us won't hear it, but you're free to be doing your own energy work, you know, as we're all doing it together, okay? So the small intestine meridian point is what in EFT they call the karate chop point. And so this is where you feel lost and vulnerable. So back at the beginning of COVID, or, you know, looking at the war situation and, you know, the potential for us going back to being told we're to wear masks again and get boosters and all this other kind of stuff. If you feel at all hopeless, or you feel like, you know, I really don't know how to do this at this point, I need some guidance, I need some help, higher powers, God, whoever I talk to, please step in. And in EFT, the setup statement is done when you're tapping on these points. And it's, even though I am feeling, and you mention whatever it is I'm feeling, I deeply and completely accept myself. And that's difficult for some people to say that. But what it's really saying is, I know I'm lost and vulnerable. I know I'm asking for help. I know I'm doing the best I can do in every moment. And I'm making the best decisions now for myself. And I choose to be open to guidance. I choose to have the right people to step forward right now to help me, or the right information come across in front of me on internet, or in a letter or a note, or, you know, wherever. But I choose to be guided in a positive way that's for the best good of all concerned. And that basically is my interpretation of, I deeply and completely accept myself. I'm in a human body, so I'm going to be feeling emotions, even if they're heavy and dark, because of the environment. And I choose to change that and transmute that to love. I choose to use my emotion in a positive way instead of a negative way. And I need some guidance into how to do that. So that is the small intestine, and, you know, when you're feeling lost and vulnerable. The next points are right at the beginning of the eyebrows, and that is the bladder meridian. And so if you're feeling agitated, if you're feeling frustrated, if you're feeling impatient, that is where you can tap. And so if you look at the news and you see things going on, or you feel like, you know, they're trying to pit us against each other again, or you see politicians saying one thing that you know may not be true, or you don't agree with, and it triggers something in you, you can tap these points and just say, I choose to let go of this frustration, this agitation, this impatience. It's okay for me to feel differently. It's okay for me to disagree. It's okay for me to send love to these people, even if they're wrong, even if I'm wrong, but to send love to these other human beings that are all trying to do the best they can, even if they've got an agenda that I don't agree with. Okay, so the next points are on the edge of the eye, are like the temple, right at the end of the eyes. And these points are your gallbladder. And this is all about resentment. It can be also anger, but it's more resentment leading into anger. And a lot of people that come to me, they go, well, I don't have to tap here because I don't have a gallbladder. I had my gallbladder taken out. I said, that doesn't mean your meridians were taken out. And so, you know, you still have that resentment, even if you don't have the organ. So we don't need to carry resentment and anger around, because they're really, really heavy emotions. So think back through the whole experience of the last 3 years of COVID and the lockdowns and all that entailed. And think of anything that you resented, or any time you felt resentment and anger. I know I felt a lot of anger. I was saying words that I don't use usually in my language, you know, and I was just so angry and yelling at the TV and doing things that are not characteristic of me. just because of this anger that kept coming up in me. It's like, what do I do with this anger? Why did this happen? Why is this happening? Why do we feel out of control? And that can be done not only about COVID, but it can be done, why are we being bombarded by storms? Why are we having floods? Why are we having wars when we're supposed to be an evolving species? What's wrong with us here? So, and that can be personal things, that could be little day-to-day things. Sometimes the people we love the most are the ones that step on our toes and know where all our buttons are. And we can resent when they push on our buttons. And that's when it comes time to clear the energy and dissolve the buttons, and then they won't have anything to push. And then they'll stop that behavior. So anything we feel is inside of us. And so if we feel the anger and the resentment, we don't want to carry it around because it'll make us physically sick. So this is really great way to get rid of that. The next points are under the eye and like right on the eye socket ridge, right on the bone underneath the iris and the pupil of your eye. And this is your stomach meridian. And you've probably heard the comment, I can't stomach anymore. I can't take on anymore. Well, the stomach is where this meridian is where we take on other people's emotions, other people's opinions, other people's judgments, other people's pain. So as we're watching what's going on in the Ukraine and the war, as we're watching any kind of issues with storms or fires or floods or anything happening with natural disasters or geoengineered disasters or, however they're happening, or if we're just around a loved one who is suffering or frustrated or, feeling lost or sick. This keeps you from carrying their burden. We can be there to care for them. We can be there to support them. We can be there to offer our love. And we can't help them very much if we take on their burden and we're carrying it just alongside, walking the road with the boulders in our backpack, just like they're carrying. So it's better for us to say, okay, those are boulders you're carrying. I recognize that. And I send you love to help you transmute those boulders so that you don't have to carry them anymore either. Because I sure can't carry them anymore. I'm not going to carry them for you. So, this is a point that you can just use anytime, just like in the morning. You can, I don't know how many of you might follow Donna Eden's energy medicine protocols, but she's got her morning rituals. And one of the tapping points she does in the morning is the stomach meridian, just so that she clears anything that's not hers so that she can move on for the rest of the day. Okay. So then there are two other critical points. There's the point here that goes actually back into your mouth, but it goes over your head down to your tailbone. And the other point comes out of the inside of your mouth and goes all the way down to your sexual area or to your root chakra. And so these are the main meridians that all your major chakras go through and come out in the front and the back. So this is the governing vessel, and this is the central or conception vessel meridian. And I like to tap them together instead of separately. And you don't really have to say anything. In EFT, you're always saying something, but the main focus here is to focus on what you're feeling. And both of these meridians have to do with personal power and use of power. Now, we all know that the third chakra is your power chakra, and it's like right here in your diaphragm. That's why if you're surprised or somebody gives you a big shock or tells you some horrible news, you just feel like the wind's been knocked out of you, because they've hit you in your power chakra. So, but these meridians are all about you discerning, so that you're not only using your own power in beneficial ways without imposing on anybody else or stepping on anybody else's toes or taking their power away, but you're also only giving your power to those you choose to give your power to. You know, when you say, oh, but they took my personal power, there's no such thing really as victimhood when you're really into the energy. On some level, you have agreed to give them what they want. Give them your power. Allow them. And this is where you rebalance that. You're saying, okay, I choose to reclaim my power. I choose to learn from that last experience, so I'm not giving my power away again, unless I know consciously that that's okay, without any resentment or looking back saying, whoops, I made the wrong decision. So these are very potent points. Also, this helps us understand when we're stepping on other people's toes and we're doing things or saying things or making judgments that are hurting other people. So these are very, very potent points that I highly recommend you remember to use, and just, to clear the energy so that you're in balance with your personal power. And you allow other people the privilege of having their personal power. And I think that as we evolve, we will be all better, and as we learn to use our personal power better and more skillfully. Common law, the basic law that our Constitution was built on in the United States, was all about, personal sovereignty. And it is not quite what it used to be at this point. And so, all of us have to kind of relearn, what does it really mean to be sovereign to our own persona, our own body, our own being? And so tapping on these points can help us with that. Okay, so the next points are up here. If these are your collarbones, the tapping points for the kidney are right at the top of the rib cage, just under the collarbones. And kidney is where we hold a lot of fear. It's related to the bladder, which was all about the frustration, agitation, impatience, but that's related to, I'm afraid. This is, just a lot of fear in the kidney points. And so anytime you feel, oh gosh, what next? Or golly, what am I going to do now? Or it's not really confusion, because confusion's up here. It's a little bit lighter, but the real deep, dark dread and fear is here in the kidney points. And these are such good points to tap if you start feeling afraid. If you watch the nightly news, you may want to tap this the whole time you're watching the nightly news. But these are very potent points to be tapping. So you can imagine, how the people, as they saw the fires around them, felt in Hawaii. And, you know, if they had had these points to tap on, they still may have succumbed to the fire. But what I like about working with energy medicine is we're not going to completely cancel or invalidate emotions, because that's one of the beauties of being in a human body. There are some wonderful emotions, but there's some also kind of creepy emotions that don't feel really good. And when these heavier emotions are in our awareness, in our emotional body, and they're active, we can't really make clear decisions. So you can imagine the water is rising and you have to make a decision of which direction to run in to get out of the water. If your emotions are clouding the issue, you might run the wrong direction. But if you tap and clear the fear, then maybe you can go, oh yeah, I know this is the way to go up from the water, or away from the fire, or this is the decision I need to make if the hurricane's coming in on land close to me. Instead of just being overwhelmed by the fear or the dread or just the overwhelm, we can just tap here and clear this so it gets down from a heightened 10 to maybe a 2 or a 3. And then you can say, okay, so what action do I take first? What's my first step? What's my second step? Where's my bag to get out of here? And do I evacuate? Do I not evacuate? Who should I take with me? You know, do I have gas in the car? You know, all those kinds of things you can think about once the emotion has been cleared. Okay. And so then the next points are right, they're not your armpit, but they're under the arms, and they kind of come around under the rib cage, or like right under the breast area on a woman, or a man too. But you can tap it kind of monkey style, or you can cross over if it's easier to do one side at a time. I like to do it monkey style. This is the spleen meridian. And the spleen is all about self-esteem, or your sense of self. And look at where we are. We have come through 3 years of hell. We have come through 3 years of being told we are to do X, Y, and Z. We can't go see our friends. We can't go see our loved ones. We have to take pharmaceuticals. People are dying. Scary videos on the news. Now all these, you know, natural disasters, all kinds of strange news, strange narratives, strange things. And yet we are survivors. We're here. We're still going strong. And we need to say, okay, we've got the courage to be who we are. We've got the courage to let go of them trying to take away who we are and not allow us to feel good about ourselves. And it's okay for us to be strong and courageous and to be ourselves. And that's what the spleen meridian is all about, is to say it is time to speak our truth and to let that throat chakra sing, even if it's scary, because we've got the tools to let it go. Okay. And so finally, I like to end with tapping on the cranial faults and up here on the crown chakra, and focusing on gratitude and thinking of all the different things that we can be grateful for, and the people that are in our lives to support us and to be there for us, and that we can be there for them. And all of the wonderful good news that's out there, and the good evolutionary organizations and groups that are forming and communities that are coming out. You know, one of the hardest things about COVID was, you know, like Laura said, the frightening division that was created, whether it was Republicans, Democrats, or different states, or different political views, or you know, different countries, or, you know, there's just so many different divisions. And there came times where we had, you know, many of us had to let go of people that were a big part of our lives before, because we realized we're really different and we have agreed not to agree. And what happens when you let go of old things, like people that are no longer serving us, or events, or even locations, is we create the vacuum, and new things and new people and new groups and new organizations and new communities step in, and new techniques even step in. And so there is hope, there is beauty, there is richness, and we need to be grateful for that. And I'm grateful for that. I feel much richer now than I did right before COVID, but in a whole different way than I ever would have expected, right? Okay, and so it is. All right, so Julia, I saw you yawning, and that's a great indicator that you were shifting energy. So it was, you were working on some stuff, you were letting go of some stuff. Would any of you like to share what it felt like, what came up for you, what you were clearing? You know, unmute yourself and just Julia, do you have anything you'd like to share about what came up? Because you didn't really have an agenda for coming on today's call. Did anything?
No. Just felt very supportive and nurturing. It was wonderful to be reminded of, you know, my own power. And I guess that's probably,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing. Beatrice, how about you? You want to unmute? Did anything come up for you?
I loved your explanation of all the, because it's very empowering. You know, there's something you can do about things. We know that we don't have things under our control all the time, but even in that case, there's something we can do to respond. And as you said, if we're clearer, then we'll make better decisions. We'll be better.
Right. Right. Thank you. So Laura, do you want to share anything? Did you get any specifics?
Well, I always appreciate that you give what meridian the EFT, because I have some background in EFT, but I always appreciate that you give what meridians those are and what they represent.
Okay.
And each category that you would say, there would be something different that would come up for me. So I'm trying to take notes on what I've got to work on.
Okay. All right, good. Thank you for that. I know back when, God, it was in the 1980s, I was married to my ex-husband, who's a chiropractor, and we would go to seminars together. And that was before I went back and got a second doctorate in naturopathy. And I was studying a lot of the energy medicine techniques with my ex, and we learned neuroemotional technique together. And as we were working on clearing a lot of stuff, I was praying for something that I could use on my own. And that's when I found emotional freedom technique, or tapping, which I could, using what I already knew about NET and the body and the physical issues and what they were related to and the specific emotions. Then I could also apply that, but I could do it on my own. I didn't need a facilitator, and that really helped me through the divorce and letting go of my best friend and, you know, all that kind of weird stuff. And so just knowing that that tool was available, I would sit and do 3 and 4 hours a day of just saying, because Spirit told me I was not allowed to work on any more clients until I was totally clear myself. And you know how once you get the outside peel of the onion off, there's another peel, and then there's another peel, you know, so you just keep peeling. And I'm not saying I was totally clear, but it got so much stuff out of me that I could come in and facilitate for other people. And then I was given the go-ahead, and so I went back into working with other people. But it's amazing that once we have tools that we can use on our own bodies, we don't have to depend on others and become dependent. And, you know, I think it's always really good to work with a facilitator, because when you've got an energy therapist holding the form for you, or when you're even doing it with a partner, there's more energy in that mastermind. You know, somebody's holding the energy for you. They're holding your what you want out of life, what your desires are, what your plans are, and they're holding them in the chalice with you. And so that just adds so much more power to the experience. And then once the you know, any interfering emotions are cleared, then yes, you really can think straight and be ready for strange happenings that are happening more and more these days. So that's why I love having a community and sharing with the community. And I know hundreds of people will watch this video eventually, because I'll be sending it out in different places. So thank you all for being here in person and holding the mastermind and being here with me as co-facilitators of this call for so many others that will be watching the recording. That makes it, you know, that adds value. So I really thank you for doing that. So are there any questions or comments or requests for a topic for a future call? Now, I used to do this weekly, then I did it every other week, and then I did it monthly, and then I went to quarterly. And, you know, 15 years ago, I charged for it, and then I went free when, you know, people started having financial situations. So I don't charge for this group right now, and I'm happy to do that. I just liked for people to, you know, feel like they came here hoping to get something out of it, and that they got something out of it. So, you know, if any of you have specific requests, or you have a topic, some of the time I will have the people that show up on a call kind of regroup before I start the recording and tell me, what's up with you? What do you want to clear today? What do you want to clear today? What do you want to clear today? And then usually it's just really the right people that come up with the topics that we clear on the call. So today I had already announced that I wanted to do this on trauma and things that we felt were out of control. And hope, yeah, I think hope would be a good topic considering the times we live in. Yes, I think that's what's so important about the energy workers and the holistic workers, because we are on the planet, and what we help support is there's always hope. You know, I think any doctors really do a disservice if they say, oh, you're gonna, you know, you only have 2 weeks to live, or you only have 6 months to live. That's horrible. How can anybody say that? But because you can always rejuvenate, you know, the living things, the body knows how to rejuvenate. Anything man-made doesn't know how to rejuvenate. So we can do this together. So, all right. So thank you all again for being on the call. And I invite those who are watching the recording to come to our next call. And again, thank you all for helping to co-facilitate and to hold the wonderful mastermind energy for all of us and all the planet.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate you so much.
Okay. I hope to see you or hear you on another call soon.
Definitely.
Okay. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. You
Thank
too.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.